What is going on, everybody, and welcome back once again. My name is Jordan, also known as JMonster, and thank you for joining me for another replay battle. This one is 2-on-2 in 1212 AD on a forested, hilly, foggy map. It is absolute disorientation and craziness down here in one of the forests of Italy, and I think you guys are really going to have a good time with this one. This is the forces of the Duke of Burgundy alongside the Bohemians commanding their armies against the massed strength of the Empire of Nicaea, otherwise known as the Byzantines, the boys in purple, alongside their ally, the Holy Roman Empire. So without any further ado, let's get right into the army compositions, and then we can get into the battle itself. I hope you guys have fun. Alright, so as usual, we're going to do the army compositions before we jump into the replay, but before we do that, there are a few rules to take account of. First and foremost is that every general is limited to a meager 2 Tier 3 units per army. They also get, I believe, about 4 Tier 2 picks, but everything else needs to be Tier 1. There's a little bit of issue with that, I think, on my ally's side, wherein his Tier 1 units ended up being Tier 2 after all on the battlefield, but it's not really all that big a deal. They have basically Tier 1 stats anyway, as far as I know. But yeah, that's basically everything, except for there is max 4 archers and max 4 cavalry in this, which does not include your general's bodyguard, so potentially you can have 5 units of cavalry in every army if the generals so choose. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's everything, so let's go ahead and let's take a look at the army compositions in detail. First and foremost, we have the Byzantines being commanded by yours truly. I have 1 unit of Emperor's Bodyguard and 4 units of High Period Dynatoi. These are my Tier 2 picks, so of course I have 4 of them. I didn't use my Tier 3, maybe that's a good idea. That's a strategy you could use in this sort of scenario, but I wanted to have a very balanced force. I've also got, I believe, 7 to 8 units of Scudetoi Swordsmen that compose my main line. I've also got 4 units of early period Scudetoi. Give myself a little bit of an extra anti-cavalry edge, possibly to support my cav. My entire range contingent consists of 4 units of Mortatoi. These guys are heavy bow infantry. They also have shields, so they are decent at standing up for an extended period of time against other melee units. I've also got 3 units of Spartharioid Guard. There we go. I really need to do some research on these guys. I don't know a whole lot about them, but they seem like they're very interesting. And the fact that they're limited suggests that they are potentially an elite force in and of themselves. So I'm sure there's some interesting information to be had there. I've also got 1 unit of Archangel Guard. Very, very cost effective. Also 200 in the unit, so they're very numerous as well. And my other tier, yeah, here they are. My Tier 3 picks are 2 units of Anglo-Varangoi. These guys are Anglo-Saxon expatriates who fled the Norman conquest of their island home and took service elsewhere in the arms of foreign rulers. So that's pretty well it for my army. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at the army of my ally. This is Archangel commanding the forces of the Holy Roman Empire, I believe. He's got 1 unit of Emperor's Heerschild Bodyguard and 4 units of Imperial Ritter Cavalry in the High Period. And they look freaking cool. Look at this. I love the uniforms for the Holy Roman Empire. They're almost consistently the best, I think, in the game. But yeah, he's got the full contingent of 5 cav. He's also got a large number of dismounted Ritta, because apparently he just couldn't get enough of their knights, so he's brought a very large contingent of these dismounted German knights. They all fight with two-handed weapons. They have shields, but they don't really use them just because they're extra badass and feel like they don't need them. I think this is where we ran into a few issues. The Landwehr are intended to be a Tier 1 pick, but they ended up being Tier 2 after all. So we've got a ton of Tier 2 units in here. All of them are halberd polearm units. Very, very scary, very good with their armor piercing. But I think that's pretty well it. No, of course, his range contingents. He's got 4 units of Trabantan medium bow infantry. They're okay. They're just okay. They don't have shield. They don't have exceptional armor. They're nice for volume of fire or for a decent budget pick. But that does it for our team. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at the forces of the red team. Over here we have the army of Fluffy Duck commanding, I think this is Bohemia. I don't know, that white lion rampant on a red field makes me think England, but I think it's the Bohemians. I'm going to go with my gut and say it's the Bohemians. He's got some mounted crossbow sergeants as one of his Tier 3 picks. He's also got, he's got the King of Bohemia, so it's definitely the Bohemians. 1 unit of King Bohemia Bodyguard, and I think 2 or 3 units, or I believe just 2 units of Bohemian Knights early period. So that's a Tier 1 cavalry force. I think he's balanced his Tier 2 and Tier 3 picks throughout the contingents in his army, not really concentrating them heavily in one area. His infantry force rather consists almost uniquely of sergeants of some denominations. So he's got some early period sergeants here with sword and board, some shield and spear sergeants, and some archer sergeants as well. I think he's got, yeah, here we go. One of his Tier 3 picks, he's got some Pavi crossbows. These guys are very deadly in this mod. Definitely a worthy pick for any army that can take them. They are so good, and they will stand up to just about anything except, I think, other Pavis. He's also got some halberdiers, some high period halberdiers. I think these are tier 2 units, so we've got some tier 2 halberds in there as well. Moving on now to the other army, this is the Burgundians, I believe, being commanded by Vislak. He's got a large number of valets. You can see them. They're all kind of mixed in together, so it's hard to tell who's who. But I think these 4 or 5 spear units all the way down the line are his medium valets. He's also got some hommes d'armes, a tier 2 heavy shock cavalry unit. Very, very good. And this is probably one of the scariest portions of his army, the gendarmes. Tier 3 shock cavalry, very, very powerful, not to be underestimated. He's also got the Duke of Burgundy himself. Not sure which one, but he's definitely a Duke of Burgundy. Over here we have that's some more of Fluffy's Bohemian Knights, and he's got some more hommes d'armes and gendarmes over here as well. He's brought his own force of halberds. These are quite light, I think. These are communal infantry, pretty decent. They've got AP, but they will fall apart in the face of missile fire. He's also got some free company footmen here to compose his tier 2 picks, as well as some. Honestly, I don't know how to say this. They're Burgundians, so they're a French faction, but it looks Italian. I'm just gonna go with my gut and say Pagliari, but I don't know. Maybe you guys know, and you can tell me down in the comments. That would be most appreciated. But yeah, that's basically it for his for the army compositions. Let's go ahead and let's jump right in to this very chaotic replay. Hope you guys enjoy it. All right, to get the battle started, my ally Archangel is going to swing wide all the way onto my left flank. He's going to move his entire force from my right to my left flank. A little bit of a risky maneuver because it does expose his flank to an ambush or archer fire from the enemy, but nonetheless he's going to go for it. At this point in the battle, we don't actually know where our enemies are. We know that they're in this direction. We don't know what their positioning is like. As you can see, they are moving up together, the Burgundians and the Bohemians in force. A ton of archers moving forward to screen their formation at the same time. Vislak is being very, very aggressive. You can see him moving forward with his valets. I think he's looking to potentially occupy this hill up here and get himself a nice position settled over here on the attacking red team's right flank. Not a bad idea. Looks like Archangel is, though, moving over at the same time, possibly looking to contest it. I don't know if they can see each other at this point. I think we're only just beginning to see glimpses of the vanguard of their army, so we have no idea what's coming for us. It's a very numerous force. We are certainly outnumbered, in fact. If you look at the unit count there, very significant disparity in the number of men on each side. So we definitely have our work cut out for us. Hopefully Archangel can manage to catch Vislak potentially out a little bit if he's able to move his forces in there quickly enough, potentially even occupying the hill or at least contesting it with Vislak. He may be able to beat back the Burgundians and establish a foothold on the enemy right flank. That would be a huge breakthrough for us. Elsewhere, I'm getting my forces into position. You can see me moving in my my Scudetto swordsmen to form my front line. I believe everybody is. They're currently hidden, but they're also getting themselves into a shield wall formation because I can see the archers of Fluffy Duck moving across the forward ever so slowly, but definitely a menace to be accounted for. My second line consists of my Spartharioi Guard, not a bad unit, very, very good at tier 1. This is the kind of scenario where these guys will shine in. I've also moved over a significant portion of my cavalry, I believe to the tune of about 3 to 4 units of Dynatoi. I'm trying to balance my deployment a little bit so that my ally is going to be able to, or that I will be able rather to support my ally with this very, very risky maneuver that he's undertaking right now. So I don't want to concentrate all of my killing power onto that one wing. I always tend to prefer a balanced deployment. Although I'm bringing in another unit of Dynatoi, I suppose I'm keeping one of my units back alongside my general's bodyguard. Forming up now, my archers getting themselves ready. I can see the forces of Fluffy Duck moving forward at this point. I'm getting myself into a position where I can begin to skirmish with him. It's gonna be total craziness here. Look at this. It's almost like something out of the gladiator battle at the beginning of the movie, where they're rushing out into the lines of the Germans. I think we're gonna see a very similar situation here. Yeah, because we're both moving blind at this point. It looks like there's a little bit of cav action going over here on our on the blue team's left flank. This is very unfortunate. I think the cavalry of Archangel is really going to find itself outmatched here by the forces of Vislak. Vislak has a nice balanced force of both tier 2 and tier 3 cavalry, although actually now that I look at it, Archangel has his own tier 3 units as well. Over here, just more cavalry fighting the hommes d'armes, taking on the Imperial Ritza. and things just not really going well for him. He's got his bodyguard unit, Emperor Hirschschild, engaged over here with a unit of gendarmes. I think he was hoping that the extra numbers would give him the edge that he needed, but the Emperor's bodyguard unit is being beaten back very soundly, and that is a very dangerous gamble to make in Attila. So we can see some of the, I think these are yeah, okay, this is the Omdam, but we can see more and more reinforcements pouring forth from Vislak over the hill. I think we might even start to see some Bohemian Knights join the fray as well. Over here we have the Duke of Burgundy himself in the back overseeing the fight, but I think Archangel didn't realize exactly how strong Vislak was going to commit to this hill, and now his cavalry is going to be a little bit caught out there. He does have some dismounted Rita here to potentially aid him in pushing back that advance, but honestly, this is going to turn into a very, very big problem for Archangel very quickly if he is not able to get it under control. Over here on my side, things very quiet. I think Fluffy Duck is kind of just waiting and biding his time. He's basically locked down the entire area with his infantry stretching far and away from horizon to horizon, actually locking down the whole map. So I can't progress past this red line. So my cavalry over here really kind of stuck. Whereas he has some cavalry and forces over here as well, so it kind of works out because he's got his entire force placed over here, not really doing a whole lot. Whereas mine is essentially doing the same thing, but I've committed a little bit less. Over here, though, you can see in the center, his forces are beginning to advance forward. These early sergeants looking to pick a fight with some of my warriors in the back. I don't know if they know where we are yet. They may be able to see us, and no, it says these guys are still hidden, so he doesn't quite know where my battle lines are located yet, but he's looking to find out, I think. Over here, I've moved in my general's bodyguard potentially to give my ally a little bit of a hand. I've got some Dynatoi in there taking on, I think, some gendarmes, or looking at possibly to give them the what for. I've got a unit of Scudetoi, rather, spears moving in, looking to get into the rear of those heavy cavalrymen, and at the same time moving forward with my Dynatoi, trying to get in amongst his English longbowmen and shut down his skirmish line. Unfortunately for me, this does leave my cavalry very exposed. They're having a great time right now fighting those archers, no problems, but my spearmen, unfortunately, are cut off from coming to help them. There's I think either a second unit or part of the gendarme unit is preventing my spearmen from moving over in force. They're just kind of trickling in at this point. I don't know if it's going to be enough to destroy those bowmen and the heavy cavalry who is stationed over here. Over here on Archangel's side, things not looking great for Vislak. His forces have broken, I think, several times, so you can see a lot of dead bodies. Archangel is slowly but surely managing to beat back this heavy commitment from Vislak. You can see some more routing over here in the center. Very unfortunate for Vislak. I've actually pulled my spears and my Scudetoi spears out of that fight, looking to help my ally Archangel roll up the line. You see 2 units of spearmen now shattered, running off the field. And over here we've got some of my tier 3 units. In fact, my Anglo-Varangoi have joined the fight, and they're helping my ally Archangel to roll up Vislak's line. He's a very, very exposed and isolated at this point, with most of Fluffy Duck's forces being contained over here on this line. You can see now a fight beginning to materialize between our 2 infantry forces, my Scudetoi and my Scudetoi with sword and spear, taking on the sergeants, doing their best to try and drive them back. But it looks like a very disastrous thing has happened here. Some of these mounted crossbow sergeants have penetrated my back lines. I'm moving in with my general's bodyguard to try and drive them back and keep my archers alive for as long as possible, because I definitely need them at this point. Most of my Dynatoi are engaged in a fight over here, but Fluffy Duck is slowly managing to wrap around me with cavalry and infantry. Most of them, I think, are not spear units, so that is a bit of a blessing for my Dynatoi, who are going to be able to hold the line for a very long time in this kind of engagement. And we are actually managing to beat some of his Bohemian Knights as well, because we are tier 2. So we've kind of got things under control a little bit, but we're going to have to be very, very careful. Over here, though, my general, though, is very exposed. Look at this. These archer sergeants have a clear shot into his rear. I don't know what I was thinking. This is a very deadly thing to do, but we are managing to rout these sergeants here. They are wavering. We could start to see a nice breakthrough that will allow us to encircle Fluffy Duck's forces in turn. Over here, I've moved off with some of my Spatharioi guard, looking to check the advance, check this encirclement, rather, of Fluffy Duck. He's only got some sergeants here in the fight, looking to encircle what remains of my infantry and my cavalry. So I'm going to try and turn that around on him now, and hopefully be able to drive him back. Let's take a quick look at some of the chaos that's happening in here. Trees are on fire, men are dying, horses are screaming. Absolutely a beautiful day in Italy. Fairly even here along the battle line, although I am managing to turn the fight in my favor with the application of my Varangian Guard. So if we're careful and lucky, we may be able to roll up Fluffy Duck's line. But we do have some more gendarmes coming in. I think they freed themselves from that engagement with my cavalry. I think they've actually routed my cavalry, chasing them off the field, and the Duke of Burgundy himself is moving over there to apply very important pressure. Over here, Archangel still doing really well against the forces of Vislak. You can see some more routing. I think that's the valets, yeah. Vislak's infantry having a very difficult time here. These spear units not a match at all for the Landwehr heavy polearm infantry. They are getting cut up. Although it looks like he's managing to get some of his cavalry in behind Archangel's formation, and this is going to be a very big problem for him. His Imperial Ritter taking on some of the Omdam, a fairly even fight, although it says that it is lightly in favor of the Imperial Ritter. Archangel's really going to have to move in there and react quickly to this menace behind his lines, or Vislak is going to be able to turn this engagement around on him very, very quickly. Although, I don't know, maybe Vislak won't be able to do it in time. See a very healthy unit of communal infantry routing off the battlefield, leaving the flanks of their fellows exposed. Archangel doing a great job at shutting down the infantry force from Vislak. Up here you can see my angle of Varangoi. We've absolutely obliterated Vislak's line. My angle of Varangoi now up on this hill, taking on some of the routers, trying to prevent some of his forces from reforming. All in all, looking very, very strong for us on our right flank. Although, let's quickly move back over there. I'm starting to see a little bit of routing, potentially. Oh, nope, never mind. That's still Vislak's forces that are routing, so we're good there. But over here, Fluffy Duck doing all right against my troops. I've managed to get another unit of Anglo Varangoi over here, trying to balance my deployment. They are hacking down these Tier 1 troops, doing a wonderful job. Back here, we've got the King of Bohemia himself charging into battle against my Sparthorii. Got a nice hammer and anvil charge there. My poor Sparthorii guard not really up to the task, I think, of fighting both the sergeants and the Duke of Bohemia. Although, luckily, we are managing to make headway against the sergeants. We could start to rout them if we're lucky. Over here, though, a very big routing force. These guys are shattered. These are my Scutatoi. 91 of them. That is a disaster for me. It's going to leave my flanks very, very exposed. Even some of my heavy cavalry here, my Dynatoi, with a lot of chevrons beginning to waver. 51 left in the unit. That would be a horrible development for my team. That would allow Vislak, or Fluffy Duck rather, to break through the center of my lines and begin to surround what remains of my troops. It looks like we're seeing some shattering over here. One of my units of Dynatoi now going down. Oh my goodness, things getting very, very heated over on the left flank. Over here, though, it looks like Vislak's still getting beat quite badly, though he has managed to begin to surround some of Archangel's units. And I think with Archangel having lost his general already, that is going to turn the engagement around in favor of Vislak. Archangel seems to be having a lot of trouble microwing this very large army and trying to prevent Vislak from affecting these very nice surrounds. And it's a little bit difficult because Vislak's forces are very, very spread out. A lot of them have routed, but continue to return from routing, leaving the front very, very fluid. There's not really an established battle line. See more routing here from Vislak, a very healthy unit of 116 Paieri routing from that engagement up there on the hill. I think we're going to see them reform just like these guys right here. This communal infantry didn't get too far before they found their courage again, returning to fight for their duke and for their duchy. Over here, these English longbowmen just getting absolutely hammered by my Anglo Varangoi. Got a unit of dismounted Ritter here who really could be doing something quite useful. I think Archangel sees now the micro mistake he made. He's going to move off his dismounted Ritter and look to take on some of these English longbows who are firing on our troops from behind. So Vislak's forces have largely been destroyed, but that does leave the forces of Pope Fluffy Duck in a fairly decent position to potentially flank us. And if we go over here, we can see a ton of routing. Yeah, some charges now from Vislak's cavalry. He doesn't have much infantry left, but he does have some strong cavalry units charging now into the back of my Sparthorii guard. And it looks like they're going to be routed off the field. Yeah, they are in fact shattered. So Fluffy Duck, between Fluffy Duck and Vislak, my army has been largely broken. I have managed to take down a significant number of Fluffy Duck's forces, especially down here in this main battle line. There's a lot of dead Bohemians, and I did manage to drive them back, but they did reform, turning around, recharging, and surrounding some of my units. So the biggest, I think, problem here is the presence of all of this cavalry, the Duke of Burgundy himself leading the charge, alongside two of his very elite units of cavalrymen. Now that my lines have been broken, that's going to allow the combined forces of Vislak and Fluffy Duck to sweep into the rear, taking out my missile units and attacking what remains of my cavalrymen from the rear. Things not looking very good over on that end. Over here, though, my Varangian Guard have done an admirable job. They have beaten back, I think, 3 or 4 units all by themselves. There's also some dismounted Ritter over here from my ally Archangel helping me to hold down this area, but it's not going to be enough, I think. These Halberdiers, alongside some gendarmes, doing a wonderful job at putting down all resistance over there on the left. Looks like there has been some disasters happening over here on Archangel's side of things. I think because of the early loss of his general, a lot of his troops are losing the will to fight. So general is very important in Attila, and I think that was that's really the downfall of Archangel's army, was that he lost his general. We saw Emperor Hirschschild engaged in combat with a tier 3 cavalry unit, and I guess it didn't go very well for him because he was eventually routed and completely destroyed. That's basically it for poor Archangel, trying to reposition his forces as best he can to take on what remains of the Burgundian army, but between all the routing and the destruction of my force on the other end, things are really grim. There's no way, I think, that he can come back from this. We're going to go ahead and we're going to fast forward it just a little bit and witness the end, the final stand here of Archangel's very brave Landwehr. Yeah, they're beating back these valets, absolutely destroying them, possibly going to make them waver, but they are wavering themselves. These are very healthy units too. We see some shattering over there, another shatter, and there we go. We have it. We have an immediate defeat from Archangel. Let's go ahead and just take a look at some of the stats. Our units did reasonably well, except for my Scudetoi, who kind of got themselves beat up very, very badly. I think these guys were routed late game by some rear charges from Vislak's cavalry. The rest of my units, though, not doing too bad. We really gave the Bohemians what for, drove them back in many areas, but unfortunately we ended up getting surrounded and charged in the rear by all of that cavalry, as you saw. But look at this. My Anglo-Varangoi did amazing. This is the one that was on Vislak's side, just carving through his forces, helping my ally roll up Vislak's lines very, very quickly. My other Tier 1 Varangian Guard unit doing admirably as well. Like I said, they hacked down like 2 or 3 units to themselves, performing admirably for their Emperor on the battlefield. My second unit of Anglo-Varangoi didn't do nearly as well. 196 is very respectable, but I think it's a little bit below their potential. My cavalry did okay. Most of them were kind of locked in an engagement for an extended period of time with lots of infantry and other heavy cavalry, so you're not going to kill too many in there, except for this one. They got 115. I think that was the one that was hacking down a lot of archers. Bohemians doing not bad at all. Some of their units, you know, kind of doing average. These two did exceptionally well, but most of them were quite low, I think. His cavalry did reasonably well. His Bohemian Knights really put up a good show, especially in this unit where they got about 61 kills. Those poor late mounted crossbow sergeants, though, really not paying for themselves at all with a meager 18 kills. I think they got chased out the battlefield by the combined might of one of my archer units and my general's bodyguard. But the King of Bohemia, look at that, 143. That's quite a lot for somebody who was engaged with infantry for most of the game. He was very mobile. Fluffy Duck made great use of that general's bodyguard unit. Moving down now to the Archangel-Vislak pairing. Archangel's forces just butchered Vislak. Look at this. Everyone getting over 100 kills, which is exceptional, especially the Landwehr. Look at this. 262 on that unit, 232 over there. These guys did very, very well, but it just wasn't enough. He wasn't able to follow up on the gains that he was making against the Burgundians. Look at this. 0-0-4. His poor valets just got themselves absolutely slaughtered. His Pailleri did a little bit better, I think. One of them getting 171 kills, very respectable, 98-81. But for the most part, I think these were much later in the game where they were running down some routers. Free Company Swordsmen, of course, they are a Tier 2 unit serving in a largely Tier 1 army against Tier 1 foes, so they did quite well for themselves. His archers, though, those English longbowmen, this is exactly what I was afraid of. I wanted to cut these guys down and shut them down in the early game, which is why I sacrificed some of my cav to do so, but ultimately it ended up not being worth it. The cavalry of Vislak, though, his infantry force may have largely failed him, but his cavalry more than made up for it. Got these 2 units of Omdam here getting a respectable amount of kills, well over 300 between the two of them. His gendarme and his 2 units rather of gendarme accounting for a significant portion. I think this is the vast majority of the kills of his army inside of these 2 cavalry units. So he really made them work. Really good pick and use of his 2 Tier 3 picks. That's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed the battle. There's going to be another one coming out today. I'm going to try and get it out today. It's much longer than this one. It is another battle sent in to me by Blood Magpie, so you know it's going to be a good one. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you later. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye!